Hello my friends and welcome back. Welcome if you're new. Let me tell you a little about myself. My name is Elena. I am the homeschooling mama to 3 kiddos. And here on the channel we talk a lot about homeschooling, homemaking, so life skills that I'm still learning and trying to teach myself, and books and planners and all the things in between. So today, from the title you can tell, I'm going to talk about my March piles of possibilities. I love this title. I love this instead of a to be read list because I don't know, it just sounds so fun. So let's dive in. For March, as of recording, it's only the second day of March and I already have 2 books that I've already started. I take that back. I have more than 2 books we've already started. So let's start with what I am currently reading. Okay, I actually had to run downstairs because I forgot 2 books that I am currently reading. So these first 2 books are books that I've been reading for quite some time and I really want to finish them in March. So the first one is Smart But Scattered. This is kind of more of a reference type book. This is by Peg Dawson, EDD, and Richard Guar, PhD. So this says it's a revolutionary executive skills approach to helping kids reach their potential for 4 to 13 years old. So this I purchased because it was a recommendation from another YouTuber here. I will try to link her down below. So I went ahead and purchased it. I'm pretty sure I got this used off of ThriftBooks. It's one of my favorite places to look for books. But my youngest is on the autism spectrum, and I found though that not only does this help with him, but this also helps with my other kids as well. But I think that the more things and tools that I can find out and help them with, the better. So I have been reading this book for an awful long time because I think it just, one, it's more of a, it's not really a book that you cuddle up with at night, you know? There are a lot of different things and like checklist and tests that you can do to help your kiddos along, and so it's something that I've been taking bite by bite and really going and taking my time with. But I really need to finish it because there is another resource type book like this that I want to get to. So I want to finish this one up and get to the next one. The other book that has been taking me forever to read is Atomic Habits. This is by James Clear, and this is kind of like building routines and habits one off of another. Tiny changes, remarkable results. I'm sure that you've heard of this book. I was debating if I wanted to read this one or a couple of other nonfiction type books, and this one was highly recommended. People were like, this book changed my life, and so with that recommendation, I had to start it. The thing is, I started this book on Thanksgiving Day. I remember I started on Thanksgiving Day. That's November and we're already here in March, and I'm like not very far into it. I did start tabbing it, so there were some things in there. I just find again that I'm not reaching for nonfiction books very often, but I really want to finish these books. I really want to finish them because I really want to pick another nonfiction off of this shelf. If you're not familiar with what this shelf is, these are more of like my Christian nonfiction books, and I went through them a little bit more when I organized this bookshelf. So I'll try to remember to link that video for you if you want to go and dive in and see that. But I don't want to pick one from there until I finish these 2 because I just feel like that's too much on my plate. But I'm so ready to get to one of these books. I need to finish these first. The other thing that I'm currently reading is the last book in this gigantic book here. So this one book actually has 3 books inside it. I talked about it a little bit more in the February wrap up, but this is part of the Elm Creek Quilts series. There are a lot of books in that series, and these are books, I think they're like books 4 to 6 possibly, or maybe 5 through 8, I don't know. But the book that I'm on right now is the last one in here, is called The Master Quilter. And in The Master Quilter, we are following the group of friends that have met, and quilting is at the heart of their friendship. They have gone through quite a bit together, and they are preparing to make a wedding quilt for one of their dear friends and really all of their mentor. So they're getting ready to put together this wedding quilt, but along the way, they are hiding things and not sharing with their friends. And so they're kind of losing sight of what their friendship is and how raw and honest they used to be with each other and how much they relied on that. And so we find little tidbits of each of their stories, what secrets they're hiding, and how it affects their friendship. And so I really like this series. Like I said, I talked about it a lot in that last February wrap-up video, but I want to finish this so that I can put this back on my shelf. There is another book that I'm currently reading. Do you start to see why I'm like, I gotta wrap up some of these because we have too many to like currently reading. There are 5 currently reading books. So the other book that I'm currently reading is a digital book. I am reading Belle. It is an Amish retelling of Beauty and the Beast. Belle is by Sarah Price, and like I said, it is a Amish retelling of Beauty and the Beast. There is 3 books, I think, in her series, and Belle is the first one. So I have started that one. I started reading it digitally. I just took one of my kids' old tablets and erased everything that I could and just put on reading apps on there, my reading apps. And so this, I'm hoping, will work better for evening hours when I'm reading, especially because I can turn the Wi-Fi off and just have it downloaded on here and read it. There's not a lot of storage on here though, so we're still trying it out. We're seeing if it works. So far, I've used it one night and it's working. So yay! So I'm reading that digitally. And I'm listening to an audiobook as well. It's The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And that is John Mark Comer is a pastor, and he kind of goes through this complete burnout. He has at the beginning of the book starts talking about how his church is really just turning into this mega church. And he has, I think he says he's like 6 or 7 sermons in one day, which that's a lot. And so he goes through burnout and how he kind of discovers this hurry mode that we're constantly in and pulls back from it. I am listening to this book because I did check out I tried to read it, and the way that he writes it, it's kind of like just this really long run-on of his thoughts. And it was hard for me to read it that way. I just couldn't, reading it in the actual print form was really hard for me, but I'm finding that listening to the book, I really, really enjoy it. And I often am like rewinding parts back to listen to it again, because when I am listening to audiobooks, I'm usually multitasking. I'm doing something else like the dishes or tidying up or something like that. And so I have to rewind a little bit because I want to hear and really let what he's saying sink in. This comes at a funny time for us because we are actually picking up the pace in our life and starting to add in extra classes and things like that, and it is a busier time. So it's kind of this weird ironic part where our physical life is getting busier, but how mentally I am trying to slow things down and not feel rushed all the time. So I personally love a slower paced lifestyle, but I am seeing that not everyone in my family thrives on that. And so there is seasons for it, and then seasons when we busy up. And so this is a season where it is busier, and it's still a transition, we're adjusting. And so listening to this book at the same time where the season is getting busy has been really interesting. So if you've not read this book, I think that you should, but also maybe if it's hard for you like me to read it in print, try listening to it in an audio version. So I did have to have it on hold for the library for quite some time, but it's a great book. That is all that is currently reading. So let's talk about the next thing. This is March, and there is middle grade March happening, and I don't think that I've participated in this before, and I like middle grade books. I like young adult books too. So I just felt like this would be really fun to jump in and be a part of this month. And so I'm going to attempt to do it, but I'm going to try to double up some of the prompts because I already currently am reading 5 books. Plus I have more that I'm thinking of. Truly, it's piles of possibilities here. So for middle grade March, I have one book that is going to fit 3 prompts, I believe. It's an award, but not a Newbery, Sky or Sea, and neurodivergent character. I just placed it on hold at the library. So here's a quick mom tip for you. Sometimes when things do get busier, or when I just find that it's busier, I can't always find the time when I take the kiddos into the library to let the kids peruse and look for their books. and to get them to be occupied enough and allow me to peruse the shelves and look for things. Now, sometimes we can. The past few months we've been able to do that, but we're busying up again and we're finding that that's just not possible. The kids' attentions are not holding, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, what I will do is go on the library website and search up books and put a bunch on hold so that when I go in, I'm able to just pull my books off the shelf that are on hold, check them out, they're already ready for me, ready to go. So this book was available and it should be ready for me to pick up really within a day or two, so I'm excited. But that book is going to be Rain, Rain by Anne M. Martin. I just watched the Middle Grade March recommendations. Editing Me just wanted to say the video is linked down below. It is by Books and Jams, the video with the recommendations for Middle Grade March. So I think I misspoke, and so I wanted to cut and clip this in. But she invited a lot of YouTubers to come on and give recommendations for Middle Grade March, and 2 of them recommended this book, and it just sounds like it's going to be such a great read. This book is about Rose Howard, a young girl who has Asperger's, and her thing that she's really into is homonyms. And so her dog she names, I believe it's her dog that she names Rain Rain, and her dog gets lost. That can be hard for any person, but especially when your kiddos, Asperger's, a lot of times kids with autism, they thrive on routine, and change can be very, very difficult. My youngest son is on the autism spectrum and he was diagnosed with Asperger's, and so I think that this book will be both very good to read. I think it will be hit very close to home though, so I am preparing myself because I think it'll also be very emotional for me. So I do want to read it. I'm going to read it and check it out from the library, and then hopefully read it this month. For the sci-fi dystopian, I just lost the word, challenge, for the genre, for the, for Middle Grade March, one of the prompts is sci-fi dystopian, and I decided I'm going to go ahead and read The Giver by Lewis Lowry. This was a book that most read in school, but I was one that I think we must have read something else that year because we didn't read this. My son did read this though, for one of his years, and it has been on my shelf because he recommended it to me. So I thought I would pick it up. This would be a great time to go ahead and read it. Our version is pretty short, 179 pages, so hoping to get through that this month as well. The last prompt is published last year, and the book that I'm going to read for that, or that I hope to read, is The Star That Always Stays by Anna Rose Johnson. I have to read this. Actually, I think this is the only available book that I could find was the audio version, and so when I finish up the current audio so when I finish up the current audiobook that I'm listening to, this will be the next one that I pick up. This one I'm excited to listen to because it is often described as, if you love Anne of Green Gables, you'll love this book, and I loved Anne of Green Gables. I did not know what a treasure I was missing out on all these years that I hadn't read it. I finally read it for the first time, and I think this summer I'll probably read it again. It is such a good, sweet, endearing story. This story though, The Star That Always Stays, has to do with a young girl. Norvia is the young girl, and they move from the country to the city, and this is when that change starts taking place. The city is a lot busier, and there are a lot of changes that are different in the city than there are in the country, and this is when her mom begins to ask her to deny who she is or to not tell anyone, even to her new husband, to the mom's new husband. So she can't even tell her stepdad. So it is described as a coming of age story that is introspective and brilliant. Native American heroine thoughtfully addresses assimilation, racism, and divorce, as well as every girl problems like first crushes, making friends, and the joys and pains of a blended family. So I am excited to get started with that book as well. Again, I probably would have read it in print, but I couldn't. The hold on my library for that is months long, and I wanted to read it this month for the prompt. So we're going to be listening to it. And then, like I mentioned, I have put some books on hold at our library, and a few came in already. And so the first one that I am also, oh no, I added another. I'm also currently reading this book. So I guess there are 6 books now. Are we keeping track of what I'm currently reading? is The Stolen Heir by Holly Black. This goes back to the Cruel Prince trilogy, the world that was there. And so here in this book, we are following Oak, the younger brother. I believe that's his name, right? Yes. Oak is 17, charming, beautiful, and manipulative. And it also follows Surin, the child queen of the Court of Teeth. I had just picked up Our Holds from the library. And then I had to take my child to an appointment. So I started reading it then, and I am just going to start chapter 3. So I'm not very far into this book yet, but I'm currently also reading this, and of course need to finish it and get it back to the library. Next one that I picked up from the library is The Bookwoman of Troublesome Creek. This is by Kim Michelle Richards. Oh my gosh. This is by Kim Michelle Richardson. This one I had actually checked out before, and it was right before we moved, so I wasn't able to read it, so I had to return it before I could finish it or even really get it started. And so when I returned it, the librarian was like, did you read that? It's so good. You got to pick up the second book, but I hadn't even read this one, so I had to tell her I had to return it unread. And she was like, well, if you want to renew it, but I couldn't at that time. So now is the time, hopefully, right? Because I've got all these books. But anyways, this book is about a bookwoman. However, she's not just any bookwoman. She's the last of her kind. Her skin is a shade of blue, unlike most anyone else. Not everyone is as keen on her family or the government's new book program. And along her treacherous route, she faces doubters at every turn. So the woman is taking kind of like a bookmobile to those in the Appalachian Mountains, I believe. And there, of course, along the way, she meets people who are not kind to blue-skinned people. And so I am excited to read this. It says, inspired by the true blue-skinned people of Kentucky and the brave and dedicated Kentucky Pack Horse Library Service of the 1930s. The book Woman of Troublesome Creek is a story of raw courage, fierce strength, and one woman's belief that books can carry us anywhere, even back home. So that is another book that I hope to be picking up this month. And the last one I picked up or put on hold on a whim, because honestly, when I put it on hold, I was like, oh, I don't have nearly enough books checked out. I don't know what I want to read next. I don't know what I was thinking, because clearly I had enough to read, but let's add another to the pile. Reggie and Delilah's Year of Falling, and this is by Elise Bryant. This was on my library's new releases, and so kind of highlight a couple on their title page, and that's how I saw it. It says, Delilah always keeps her messy, gooey insides hidden behind a wall of shrugs and yeah, whatevers. She goes with the flow, which is how she ends up singing in her friend's punk band as a favor, even though she'd much prefer to hang out at the merch table. She is a D&D dungeon master and self-declared blurred. I don't know if that's a D&D reference, because it's not nerd, it's blurred, B-L-E-R-D, or not. If you know, let me know. He spends his free time leading quests and writing essays, critiquing the game under a pseudonym, keeping it all under wraps from his disapproving family. So I'm assuming that the two of them somehow paths are crossed, and we're going to learn more about each of them and whatever ensues from there, right? So here's what we got going for our piles of possibilities. Hopefully we get through these. We'll see. Come back and check in with me periodically, because you don't want to miss any of the inspiration amongst the chaos we've got going on here. But then also, if you want to see if we read these, I try to do a wrap up throughout the month and then post it. Probably, I try to aim for the end of the month, but you know, it comes out like at the beginning of the next month, because I give myself until the very last day to finish reading all that I can for that month. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you don't know, or if you just need to be reminded, may I be the one to tell you that you are deeply and truly loved and so, so appreciated. Honestly, truly, I appreciate you taking your time out and spending it here with me. It means a lot to me, and I really appreciate you doing that. Thank you so much for watching.